Shreveport City Councilman Jeff Everson. Hey, Mr. Jeff, Happy New Year. We have not spoken in a while. Hope things are well.
Things are great. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you much. Okay, so the meeting yesterday, it's explain to me the city, we want to go from 4G internet, 5G. Explain, because you're smarter than me and Erin.
We're digital morons.
Exactly. Well, I was kind of too a little bit, other than, I know how to use it, but I don't know much about the infrastructure, which is why we had the meeting yesterday, really. So the industry is looking at upgrading the way that they provide service throughout the country. And as they look at Shreveport, they are looking at going from a system where they had just a few large towers around town to a system where they're going to have those towers as well as a bunch of small towers, little small installations, things that might be mounted to a steeple or a electric pole or, a billboard or something. And so what we wanted to find out is this kind of hit our agenda in November. We didn't really know much about it. It just showed up on there, and we were being asked to make decisions on how to regulate it. Well, we really didn't feel like we had enough information yet, so we asked some more questions, got some feedback. We had the meeting yesterday just to get some more input so that we really had a better understanding what this technology was, and we wanted to let the community know a little bit about it so we could get some feedback on what their concerns might be. When we look at how this has been rolled out in other cities, it's varied drastically. Some cities it's the equipment's pretty subtle and doesn't really look too bothersome. Some cities you see very loud, very noisy equipment that requires a lot of power to run it. So it's just a spectrum of the results that we've seen in other places, and we're trying to figure out how we can get the best result here.
See, my first question was yesterday, holy cow, when did the city get into the internet business? My sense was, and you can set me straight, that like Comcast, for example, they want to put up an internet tower or whatever they need, or Verizon or AT&T or whoever, and they come to you and say, we want to put one here, can we have your land? And you guys go, yeah, okay, and these are the rules. Do I basically understand how that works?
Well, it's essentially for the use of right-of-way, that's one aspect of it. But typically the utility company would probably already have a right-of-way agreement. So really a good way to think of this is more like permitting. When we permit something, if somebody's going to remodel the bathroom in their home, they go file some permits, and they, if somebody's going to do add-on to their house, they go file some permits. There's a staff that knows how to review them. Well, this is just a highly specialized technology. And because of the number of these things that they're talking about doing, which is quite a few, there's the potential that our engineering office that has to review them to make sure they're safe, to make sure they're not, placed in such a way that a pole's going to fall or that an electrical fire is going to happen. And what we want to do is make sure that the engineering staff who's tasked with reviewing these is not so overwhelmed that they're not able to get to those things that are important to all of us, like street repairs and water repairs and things like that we know we're already behind on.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. We're talking to City Councilman Jeff Everson. It's all good, the regulating and making sure they're put up right, but people listening are going, when am I getting 5G?
I know, right? Well, so here's the thing about this, why this has kind of come to the forefront so quickly, is we're having to make kind of quick decisions about it because these companies are moving forward with it fast. And so they are looking to roll out technology. We heard some different numbers thrown out yesterday as to when we think it's realistic, but it's in the next couple of years. However, I think they're looking to have infrastructure in place really by the end of this year. So we could see it, as early as the next year and a half or so.
You said a second ago, well, they're going to need more small towers. There's no such thing as a small tower.
No, I guess we call them small cells.
I understand,
but a cell installation. It's like an antenna. Really.
My question is, like, when you say we're going to need more, 5, 10, 30, 50, what kind of numbers are they talking about?
Again, great question. Again, that's kind of that's one of the questions we asked yesterday. We got something of an answer, but we're looking for a more detailed one. But it sounded like, it could be in the range of 100 or more initially. And then long term, when the network is fully built out, we're talking about having one of these things on every city block.
Yeah, so 100 now.
You can rent space on my house if you'd like.
And when you say
exactly right, but you can see why that would be overwhelming, because we're talking about initially a large number of these things, and again, they're not necessarily new to the telecommunications industry, but they're new to us, and so our engineers don't know all the safety specs right off the top. It's a little bit of a learning curve. So that's why we're asking these questions ahead of time, because we want to make sure we keep people safe. We want to make sure we don't slow down the rest of the city work, And so it's a balancing act. Again, you hit the nail on the head, Erin. I think a minute ago you said, it's well and fine to talk about regulations, but you have to strike that right balance. I mean, we want to protect the public interest, but we also want this technology. I mean, it's really cool technology. We're going to all use it,
You bet.
So, let's go back to the 100 new towers. Are these like basketball goal height? Are they 20 feet?
It depends, Robert. I mean, what you see when you look all over the, when you kind of Google small cells on the internet, you come up with a bunch of pictures of what's been done in other cities. And I mean, sometimes these things can be really subtle. Sometimes they're kind of encased in a box and they can even hide between two street signs. Sometimes they're run right along the side of a building, or sometimes they're kind of an extension at the top of a light pole, or that kind of thing. But then sometimes you look at them and it looks like a whole, it looks like a scene out of a Michael Bay movie, like a streetlights transforming into some kind of big monster, And,
okay, one more quick question. So as these companies are applying for more permits for these hundreds of towers, permits ain't free. Does this down the line mean that everybody's bills are going to go up?
Well, no. Hopefully, it's not the bills to the consumer. What this is, these companies have been saving for this rollout of this technology for a while. In fact, as I understand it from the conversation yesterday, they're already starting to research what the next thing after this will be. So they realize they have this budgeted already. I mean, this is something they've been planning on. But we do want to make sure that we are coming up with a way to charge for this, a way to permit for this that allows for, number one, a quick turnaround, because that's going to be the most important thing for them, is how quickly can we get them an answer about is this safe to build, and because they're going to have so many. And number two, I mean, you don't want to overcharge. You want to charge what it's going to cost. You don't want the taxpayers who are paying the cost of the city employees. You don't want the taxpayers' resources to be spent on something that's really should be the cost of the private company, and that private company, it intends to pay for it. So you want to come up with the right way to charge for that. And, I think we're still working on that. We're trying to find something that works for everybody, and we're trying to get enough input so we can figure out what that is.